I've been meaning to do a follow-up video on my weapons video from before. So I'd like to talk about the current meta weapons in Mobius Final Fantasy, and I'd also like to give some indication of the meta weapons that are coming in the coming months based on what's out in Japan right now. So first, kind of a quick review of my video. When you're in Bahamut's Lagoon, there's two ways that you can go about farming weapons. First one is to go ahead, go into a battle, hop to the top, run away from the battle. Takes me about 12 to 13 seconds to do that. I get 6 hours for my weapon time. Second thing that I can do is I can actually have the computer fight out the battles for me. So I run in here and I just tell it to take care of itself. I've got 2 eggs, I've got Great Gospel, and I've got Ultima, and she just goes. Now obviously when you're farming weapons, to review again, you also need seeds. I know there's more of a demand for the Mystic Tablets because you can get some of the Sicarius ultimates. But, I mean, I've got the 80% one for Ifrit, and I think the cost for the 100% one is probably too much. It's not like they're support Supremes, they're damage Supremes. And then you also need to get Crystal, and so I get seeds from the Gigantor place, and then I get Crystal from going in Pleiades Lagoon on Sundays or on Mobius Day and farming Crystal. So this particular battle, the way I have it set up to farm, takes me somewhere between 50 seconds and a minute to get back to the front, depending on whether the Chimera reduces my critical rate and depending on whether or not I get prismatic return when I'm fighting Famfret. So now that I got something done here, I've got a couple things I've got to update. Got plenty of Crystal at the moment. And I'm working on this one for reasons I'll talk about in a minute. So then you keep an eye on that, you keep going, this will probably be done pretty soon for me. So, I want to look at the meta weapons, and I think the easiest way to do it is to do it by class. So let's start with the warrior class. Here I've got my 5-star Cortana, and that is, as far as I can tell, the best tanking weapon that's out there right now. It's got Ultimate Charger +3, and then it's got Steel Guard, and it's got Piercing Break. And whether you're actually breaking when you're tanking, or you're not breaking when you're tanking, it gives you a little bit of added defense. There's another weapon out there that has the exact same characteristics, except for it has Auto Charge instead of Ultimate Charger. Obviously, with the way that we're doing actions nowadays, the Cortana is the best one for tanking, and as far as I can tell, it's going to be the best one for quite a while. Here I've got a Kotetsu. This was expensive to get it up in terms of crystal. It's got Flash Break, it's got Prismatic Return. This is basically used on the Shorn one when you're using him as a breaker. The other weapon that you can use there is the Leviathan. I didn't get the Shorn one until January, so I don't have this one done yet, but I've been working on it now for a couple of months. I went on a big push at the end of December to get done what I had been working on at that point in time. So the difference between this one and the Kotetsu is it's got Quick Break on it. And there are times when you want Quick Break, i.e. when you're tanking, and Flash Break isn't going to do you much good. And there are times when you want Flash Break. When you're just trying to get through rounds as quick as possible, you need the extra shaving ability. And so those two weapons, depending on situation, are pretty good. I've got a Braveheart upgraded as well. That is, as far as I am concerned, I think that's the best weapon for doing damage. Other people would argue the Gunblade is a little bit better than this, but coming up in a couple of months, we're going to get Squall's weapon, Lionheart, and it's one of the first weapons that has 4 auto abilities in addition to the Ultimate Charger. That one's got Ability Chain, Critical Damage Up, Element Reversed, and an Ability Rising +3%. So that is going to be an excellent, excellent thermal weapon whenever you're doing straight attacking without breaking the enemy. So that Lionheart is coming up, and it's going to replace Gunblade, it's going to replace Braveheart, it's going to replace any of the damaging weapons. I've also got Brotherhood mostly upgraded when I'm using Zeza, but I don't end up using that very much because I've been using Zeza off-class lately. Finally, we've got the Ultima weapon. And the Ultima weapon is kind of the base weapon as far as I'm concerned. Everybody who plays this game should have the Ultima weapons modified up to where you need them. They've got Ultimate Charger, they've got Element Production, and they've got Prismatic Return. So if you don't have the ability or the resources to do anything better, the Ultima weapon is the best for each class. Now, we just got a new character, we got Graf, and at the moment Graf only has a couple of weapons available. I haven't picked up his other class yet because I'm going to be pulling on the support Supreme type banner at the end of the month, and if I get Chaos in a reasonable amount of time, I'll be pulling on the Ranger one too, because the only Ranger Supreme I don't have is Godot. If I get that in a reasonable amount of time, I might pull on the Mage one, but now I'm getting optimistic. So for Graf, we've got the Ultimate Lance. And his other weapons that come out, there is a weakness and a breaking weapon with a haste starter on it, and that weapon is okay as a thermal weapon. But, I mean, Graf's specialty is weakness already, so updating that just a little bit more isn't going to be a big deal. In a couple of months, when we get the Final Fantasy VIII event, Seifer's character will come out, and that will be a Graf-type job, and then we will get a new weapon type there, which will have Element Reverse, and then abilities charging the ultimate grade, Ultimate Gauge, and Quick Break. And that will be a very meta break weapon when that comes out. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to get the Ultima weapon up for Graf right now, and then I'm going to wait until Seifer's job comes out, and then I'll probably farm that one as well. I could look at getting the one that has weakness up with break up with haste starter, but I think I'm just going to skip that and I'm going to stick with these. So, those are the warrior ones. Let's move on to the next job type. Mage, obviously my favorite. I've got way too many weapons maxed out for mages. So I've got a Heavenly Axis, which is a great breaker weapon, but it doesn't have elemental reverse on it. So it adds to both Quick Break, Flash Break, and Piercing Break. When you're not running out of elements, this is an ideal breaker. When you are running out of elements, then we want to use the Amatsu Mikabushi. And I've got this finally all the way upgraded for the Shorn one. I had it up before the last event, and maybe before the one in January as well. And this guy's got Prismatic Return and Quick Break and improved criticals. And I found out on the last tower, when you can't break, this ends up being a very good weapon still for attacking the enemies because it's got Prismatic Return and improved criticals. And I don't see anything better than this coming on the horizon. I suppose you could make an argument for the Jester's Cane, which has an element generator, it's got Prismatic Return, and then it's got Exploit Weakness on it. And I don't really see how that's significantly better than the Criticals weapon. The only reason I'm upgrading this right now is so I can use it when I'm farming score, because it doesn't have any attack. I'm not actually going to bring this up to 5-star, I'm just going to stop when I have the magic maxed on it. Other mage weapons, back when I didn't know what I was doing, I upgraded both the Hermit Cane, because it had Ultimate Charger and Piercing Strike, and I updated the Sapling Staff, and then I stopped when I realized that I was not going to be using this one long term. And then I also updated the Eternity Staff as a thermal weapon. It's got a Tune Chain, Painful Break, and improved criticals, which is great when you can break. This is often useful on a back weapon if you don't have the massive amount of actions being added on to the end of the rounds like we did last tower. So last tower we would tank, and then we would use as many action generating abilities as possible, and in that case you're better off using an Amatsu Mikabushi, which has Prismatic Return along with improved criticals, because you need that additional Prismatic Return because you want to keep using a Tune Chain every round, and if you have to generate elements you run out of that ability. Maya, obviously my favorite character. Again, I love mages. I've got a Chaos Crescent. This is what I use when I am doing anything involving multiplayer. It's got Ultimate Charger, Auto Charge Ultimate, and Piercing Break. And so if I'm being a supporter in multiplayer, this allows me to actually damage the break gauge, and it also gets my ultimate charged up ASAP, which is basically how I damage the break gauge. And I also get Prismatic Return from that when I end up using it then. We've got this Event of It, which is her thermal weapon. Pretty good. Prismatic Return plus improved criticals. Painful Break is great when you can break. Not so great when you can't break. Of course, there are going to be Maya, what would we want to call them? Job Awakenings coming out? I can't remember what the term is off the top of my head right now. And when that happens, Amalthea gets a 500% flash break. And at that point, adding another 100% flash break like you can do with the Tish Tray, which is extremely useful for the Nightwalker right now, doesn't really make that big of a difference anymore. And so at that point, you're probably better off using his event of it, because breaking is not going to be the issue if you've got 500% flash break. And then for Vesna Kresna, for whatever reason, they added a 700% flash break, which really allows her to melt the yellow gauge. That doesn't really make her that much better at breaking the red one, because she doesn't have that much breaking power to begin with. So this event of it right now is her thermal weapon. But if you can't break, there are going to be times when the Nightwalker's weapon, Luni Nore, which has got ability chain, improve criticals, and exploit weakness, is actually going to be a better thermal weapon, even if you can't get prismatic return from it all the time. So I'm upgrading this just because I love Maya and because I upgrade weapons. The other Maya weapon that I have spent a bit of resources on is the Malicious Revolt from the Primeval Witch. And that's got Quick Break, it's got Piercing Break, it doesn't have a Flash Break again, so this could potentially be useful with a job like Amalthea and Vesna Kresna after they get upgraded, but it's also got the Painful Break with it, with the Piercing Break and the Quick Break. So again, no element reverse, but there are times when you don't actually need that, especially when you're just running through breaking quickly in a tower. Finally, we have the Ultima weapons. Again, I've got the Ultimate Mace up with max break power and max magic, because I found there are times when I need the that I need the ultimate charger when I've got prismatic return. And then I've got the same thing upgraded with the ultimate wing. So they've got maximum break power, maximum magic power, and then the other ones are kind of side stats, because it's not like you're ever going to be using a mage to tank anyways. So I think that covers all the mage weapons. I use this guy when I'm farming seeds. Ranger weapons. This is a little bit more of an interesting group. I think the best weapon is clearly the Double Cross, which again has the prismatic return and the improved criticals. I upgraded as Zorlin Shape, I upgraded as Vil Crossblade. The other one you can upgrade is a Zorlin Shape, because I didn't have any job that was using exploit weakness at the time I upgraded it. This is my thermal weapon. I don't always have the ability to use it, because sometimes I need that prismatic return. And then I also have a Rising Sun upgraded back from way back when I first started weapons, and it's got Ultimate Charger and it's got Piercing Break. And there are times when I like this more than the ultimate weapon. For Sarah's weapons, I've probably got more upgraded than I need. I've got the Descending Arc, which has got that Painful Break plus the Exploit Weakness. That was an initial thermal weapon for her. I've got an initial breaking weapon, which is also very useful in multiplayer at times. I've got the Magical Rave, which ups Flash Break and has the Prismatic Return, and I've got the Septen Trio, so basically the same lineup as I have with Maya's weapons. When Sarah comes out, Sarah from Final Fantasy XIII, she has got another weapon that has Elemental Reverse, abilities charge the Ultimate Rage with the Quick Break, and I'm pretty sure that is going to be Sarah's primary weapon at that point, because that is an Ultimate Breaker weapon. Maya's going to get one of those too. She's going to get one of those from Ultimecia's job from the Final Fantasy VIII event. But for her, I'm not 100% sure it's going to be as useful as it is going to be for Sarah, because Sarah is primarily a breaker. Then I've got the Ultimate Edge, which again has break power and magic power maxed. I've got the Ultimate Arrow, which again has break power and magic power maxed. I've got this guy, which I haven't put anything into, but I use it to farm crystals with Riku's job, if I remember correctly. And then I use this sometimes for farming seeds. But obviously the Rangers are primarily used for breaking. There will be a weapon coming out from Reno, from the Turks jobs from Final Fantasy XIII, that looks somewhat interesting. That has the element reverse again, and should have the abilities raising the bar, and I can't remember what the other piece of it is. The quick break. The element reverse, the quick break, and the ability to raise the gauge with abilities. And so, since the Rangers are primarily breakers, Reno's weapon may end up becoming a little bit better than Double Cross in some circumstances, but I don't know how much additional utility there's going to be there. So I probably will end up upgrading them, because weapons have a sure cost in terms of time, energy, and money, but it's going to be a while before I have to worry about that. Finally, we've got the monk weapons. And monks are sometimes breakers, they're sometimes tanks, they're sometimes attackers, really depends on what cards you have. I have no monk supremes at the moment. So I got one against many, which I think is my best weapon right now. Same cut from everything else. This comes from the X job again. All of these weapons come from the X job with the exception of Maya doesn't have one of these, does she? No, she has a Tish tray, and the Tish tray came from the Final Fantasy XI job, if I remember right. And Sarah's got the Magical Rave, which came from... I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember if that's Riku's weapon, or if that's somebody else's. Maybe that is... Well, that's not important. God Hands, which came from the X job, has Flash Break, it's got Prismatic Return, it's got improved criticals, so it's that swath of cut again. There are times when you need Flash Break. I've been working on this one for a little while now. I still don't have it done. Then I've got a 5-star Wolfstar back from when I first started farming weapons, and I think this is very useful for breaking. It's that Quick Break, Piercing Break, and Painful Break weapon again, kind of like the Malicious Revolt from Maya's weapons. And this guy, I can't remember who comes from what, I'll have to look that up. And we have the Ultima weapon, which actually is what I primarily use as a monk until I had this thing farmed. I've got a lot of time, energy, and effort put into a Taji, because it's only got 34 modifications. I haven't used it very much, so I didn't actually take the time and resources to fully upgrade it, but it was a short one, kind of like the Ultima weapon for upgrading. And finally we've got Sophie's weapons, and I can't really figure out what Sophie is doing yet in terms of what her role is going to be long term. I've been working on her initial weapon. I think this one is underrated. It's got Prismatic Return, Kill and Draw, and Elemental Third Strike, and I may very well use this when running through normal content. I can also see this being... Well, the Kill and Draw is only useful if you're actually killing things, so I think that's more useful for running through content. I mean, obviously, the Ultima Wing, which is the same thing except for it's got Ultima Charger instead of the Kill and Draw, is going to be more useful in general. And I think that's Sophie's best weapon right now. She does have a breaker weapon in the Turbo Driver. I'm not sure how much more time and energy I'm going to put into this thing. When Vanille comes out from Final Fantasy XIII, which is for some odd reason a Sophie job, she will again be getting the Elemental Reverse, Abilities Charge the Ultimate Gauge, and Quick Break weapon, and that is going to probably be her best weapon for a while. I don't see her getting a Flash Break weapon on terms of what is currently released. Other than that, there will be a monk weapon coming out that has 4 auto abilities, and the ultimate weapon, it's going to have weak point damage up, smart break, and then the abilities will charge the special gauge, and then 2 break turns up. And that is a very curious weapon because it's got some breaking power, some thermal power, some ultimate charging, and then an additional couple of break turns. But it doesn't have the elemental reverse again, so I'm not 100% convinced that that's going to be more useful than either the God Hand or the one against many. And that's basically everything that's out right now in terms of weapons and what is going to be coming out in weapons in what is in Japan. And so, obviously, again, if you don't have the Ultima weapons, we've got 8 of them now. Get them all farmed from the Ultima weapon from Final Fantasy XIV this month. Get all 12 modifications done on all of those. I'm working on Sophie and Graf's weapons. I was going to put some more time and energy into it, but then I realized that I'm probably not going to be using those 2 in the towers for a couple of months yet. And so those are mostly, I like playing through the storyline with the actual characters, so I've been using the weapons for that, and running through with Graf was a little bit interesting this past time around because I only had his basic job. But the next time his story comes out, I will have his other things, and it'll be a lot easier for me again, which is good. Not sure what else to say. I will include a link to the Ultima Japan site in the comments on this. You can pull up anything I just mentioned on the list of recommended weapons. You click on the weapon, it will tell you where to go to get the job. You just got to remember to translate the page to English or whatever language you prefer. So if this is helpful to somebody, that's great. Otherwise, you probably didn't stick with it for this long.